T.O. Blaze.
Hey there, this is Tio bringing another Kerbal Space Program video. This is another entry in my anomalies series, and today we're gonna hopefully finish our last mission around Kerbin, which is going to be at Minmus. We're going to go out to Minmus and find an anomaly. And as far as I can tell, according to the wiki, the only anomalies on Minmus are what we're going to find today, the monoliths. And from what I can tell, you have to find them using the old-fashioned, tried and not true Kerbnet method, where you put something in orbit and try to detect anomalies with each orbit, and hopefully find one, set your waypoint, go down to the surface, etc. So you guys might have seen it in previous videos, and I'll definitely show it today. We're going to use a probe core to access Kerbnet around Minmus, and hopefully detect something. And the plan, obviously, is going to be to land. There you see I'm building the Minmus lander. I'm experimenting with a unique landing design. I like really low fuel consumption landers, especially for a place like Minmus where the gravity is so low. You don't need a lot of fuel to get down to the surface. So places like the Mun and Minmus, I like to build smaller landers and experiment with different styles. Putting the fuel tightly in little places and that sort of thing is just kind of fun for whatever reason. So kind of experimenting with the lander. I'm going to put all this on top of a rocket, and I'll use the probe core on the lander itself to hopefully detect the anomaly while in orbit, and then, like I said, set a waypoint, go down to the surface, and check it out. So getting to Minmus is another part of the challenge, and for today's video, I've decided to build something kind of similar, looking like an orbiter, like a shuttle. It'll be obviously a little different, but I figured since I'm not going very far, I can build something fun and unique like this. I'll have to go further and further out throughout the series, going to places like Duna soon, and maybe Moho and whatnot, eventually Jewel, and so forth. So the further out I go, the more complex the mission's going to be, and the more fuel I'm going to need. So shuttle around, Minmus seems like a pretty fun and doable design. I guess I wouldn't necessarily want to build a shuttle that's going to go all the way to Eve or Jewel, for instance. So I'm taking advantage of this relatively short flight and simple design. So yeah, obviously going to be different from the space shuttle flown by NASA in that the engines on this are vacuum rated. So this is an upper stage. This is not going to get us into orbit, and that design choice is going to haunt me later pretty soon in the video, and you'll see why. But besides that change, it's definitely still resembles an orbiter. We're going to have a huge cargo bay for our payload. We've got obviously we're going to have the landing the landing wheels. We're going to have obviously the big wings. I did change the fin on the top. I can never remember there are different names for the different lifting surfaces and whatnot on planes. So the fin on the top is not the traditional shuttle style. I went with something smaller. So that's pretty much it for the orbiter design, and I'm kind of tweaking a few things before I add the lower stage, which is what's going to get us into orbit. And for that, it's just a big dumb booster. I enjoy using the vector engines, especially in Sandbox. They're very expensive engines, so if you're on a career mode and you're kind of worried about funds, that's not usually my first choice. But in Sandbox, they're free and they're fun. They're super high thrust and they gimbal a lot, so you get a lot of thrust vectoring. So they're fun to put on designs, and that's what I'm going with. Not a whole lot else to talk about in the rocket design. Like I said, just a big dumb booster. I'm going to go ahead and slap on some SRBs just to help. I definitely want to get this thing fully fueled into orbit so that I can get to Minmus and come back. Sometimes I'll take the time to carefully calculate my my delta V for where I'm going and the whole mission profile. Make sure I've got just enough fuel to get there, get back with a little bit of room for error. Sometimes I don't take any of that time, and there you see on screen what came to haunt me. So the orbiter on the top, those lifting surfaces way at the top, I believe also create a lot of drag. So as soon as I pick up any amount of speed, the whole thing becomes very unstable. So this is probably attempt number 20 of getting this thing into orbit. And I figured the best way to do it without completely going back to the drawing board was just to shoot straight up, almost vertically, until I'm much higher in the atmosphere. So this is not a very efficient launch, but I got into orbit, and like I said, I'm still fully fueled in the shuttle, or the orbiter, which is the goal, and I think by the end of the video, I'm going to have lots of fuel left, so it worked out, and I was being stubborn. I didn't want to have to go back to the drawing board and completely redesign this thing. I try to be somewhat efficient in the time it takes me to record these videos. It can be easy to lose some motivation if things aren't going right, and sometimes I'm torn between showing you guys all the raw footage and the mistakes and like making a perfect video, air quotes, because KSP it can be challenging. It's not the simplest game. It is rocket science. So I like to leave in the mistakes sometimes if it's entertaining and if it's not obnoxious. So here you see my little satellite. It's got a massive amount of fuel for what it needs to do. I think originally my plan was to launch it from Kerbin, and also I could use this same satellite to go to Duna and to go to other places and locate the anomalies. Don't know that if I'm going to do that or not. We'll see in future videos. But so there you see I've got Kerbnet open, and I'm refreshing constantly. I'm looking for an anomaly on the surface of Minmus because I don't know where the monoliths are going to be. I think that's the only anomaly we're going to find on the surface of Minmus, and I don't know where they are. So I'm going to fly around several times. My orbit is inclined so that with each pass, the planet, or the moon in this case, is rotating under my orbit, and I'm going to scan a new part of the surface each time. And that's kind of something you need to keep in mind, especially if you don't know what you're looking for, which I think I mentioned in a previous anomaly video. To me, it is sort of one of the downsides of the Kerbnet. It's a guessing game. Like you don't know for certain if there's something to be found or not. So you could spend lots of time in orbit hitting the refresh button, and all the while there was not even an anomaly down there to be discovered. You kind of just don't know. So I was being stubborn. Oh, and there I found one, and I went ahead and set a waypoint, and we're gonna go ahead and check it out. I did try this a different way initially, and I had to change my plan. So I was like, I've got all this fuel in the shuttle. Wouldn't it be fun if I landed on Minmus and brought the whole shuttle down with me? I did that, and the shuttle didn't quite land properly, and I damaged the wing. And then I realized I can't go back to Kerbin with just the lander, because the lander doesn't have parachutes, it doesn't have a heat shield. So I need the orbiter to get back to Kerbin. So I had to, F9, and revert back to orbit. Thankfully, I'd quick saved in orbit. So I'm going to go down with just the lander, which was originally the plan anyway. The orbiter's still up in the orbit of Minmus, obviously. And with the small lander, I can really pinpoint my landing. I don't know exactly which of these surface features is the anomaly. I'm kind of eyeballing. I'm looking for something large that is roughly where the waypoint is pointing. And I think I found it there on top of the crater, or the hill, whatever that is, the highlands. And now that I'm closer, you can tell that's probably the monolith right there. So with this tiny little lander, I can land much closer than I probably could have with the shuttle. So, and when I built the whole vehicle initially, I didn't add enough small engines, RCS, or anything like that to get the shuttle here. The shuttle was never really meant to come here. So that's we'll let the lander do its job. And there's the monolith. There's Squad, original game developers, I believe. And a little Easter egg in the game for them. I'm going to go ahead and set down my flag, my anomaly flag, and go ahead and name this. Like I said, I think the flag is going to be the only things that I would like to leave at each of the places. And that's a successful mission, Jeb. A success for the finder. I think I mentioned in a previous video, that's what my kids and my wife like to call me when I find shit around the house. I am the finder. So it's time to get back into orbit and rendezvous with the shuttle. If you don't spend a whole lot of time on the surface, usually it's relatively easy to get to, get a trajectory that gets you close to the vehicle that you left. Sometimes if you spend a lot of time on the surface, then the vehicle's on the other side of the moon, on the other side of the planet or whatever. But in this case, it wasn't. So I'm already ahead of it because my orbit was so low. You gotta speed up to slow down and slow down to speed up. That's how orbital mechanics work. So I was able to get a rendezvous pretty quickly without a whole lot of fuss. And let's try to get this thing back inside the shuttle bay. And I think if I remember correctly, yep, there's going to be another issue here in a second. That front wheel for the orbiter is clipped into the cargo bay, and it's stopping me from connecting the docking ports to each other. I'm glad I caught that. So I brought an engineer. Always bring an engineer just in case. And got out and did EVA construction, and I moved the docking bay to the other side of the cargo bay. And now I can dock with the orbiter. And that'll do it. I think it's hilarious that I brought so much fuel. I haven't even staged the transfer stage yet. The orbiter is still fully fueled. And I think I just set it on a suicide trajectory so that transfer stage will crash into the Minmus. And now let's get back to Kerbin. I think the rest of this part of the mission is relatively straightforward. I'm going to get to Kerbin, and then I'm going to circularize because coming in with an orbiter is tricky. You need to lose a lot of velocity in the atmosphere, and it's not the best design in my opinion for that. For instance, the space shuttle, it wasn't coming from the moon. They were in low Earth orbit, so this design, it's not easy to stabilize in the atmosphere sometimes. I'm sure I could experiment with, different air brakes, different wing designs, things that create the right amount of drag in the right place. The mass of the vehicle and the center of gravity all come into play. Doing like a belly flop or those sort of things can be tricky. So this part of the footage, it took me a few tries to record correctly. Thankfully, once again, I quick saved in low Kerbin orbit, and I was able to do this a few times. I believe I left all the footage in, so we're about to see in real time just how tricky this was for me. So I'm also really trying to land close to the KSC. That was also a reason for circularizing when I got to Kerbin. I don't have the ability to plan a re-entry that accurately all the way from Minmus, so I circularized at Kerbin so that I could try to get my approach pretty close. And right now, it seems close. We'll see. This is the first time I try to land this thing. And I'm trying to remember exactly what the issue was. Also, the lift that these wings generate was kind of wonky for the, I guess, the mass. I tried to get rid of all the fuel in the back, and it still seems to stall. Like I continue to crash into the surface multiple times. So I'm pulling out all the tricks that I can think of to reduce my speed at just the last moment so that I don't crash into the ground. So horizontal velocity is not so bad. It's that vertical velocity I'm worried about. So using up all my fuel, coming in pretty fast, but as long as I don't die, I'll consider this a success. And unfortunately, I quick saved when I had already deorbited this thing. So I'm pretty much stuck at this point in the mission. And here you see I'm getting rid of some more mass. Let's get this thing light as possible. And I think this is going to be a success. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the raw footage and all the mistakes. I was pretty proud when I finally got this thing to land. I appreciate you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please leave a comment. I listen to my comments. I read them. I respond. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you again soon.